Hey guys, it's Hajara Gate alone. So today I'm home. It's a Tuesday. I usually don't record because it's hard for me. In the morning they are crazy, but today I'm home. I'm not working. I don't have any projects going on because usually when I have projects, like I wake up at 6, pray, then I start going to work. So I live in Chira and I work in town. Those who know Kampala, I work at Lumumba Avenue. So it's really a long ride, and with the jam, the craziness, it takes sometimes, if the jam is a lot, it could even take you 3 hours to get from my work to my place. So really, when I wake up at 6, then go to work, then come back around 5. If I leave work at 5, I'm home around 9. So it's really hard for me to record personally. And since the time difference with my husband, sometimes when I'm home, he's worked a night shift and is sleeping, or he's just actually going to bed or going to work. So recording with us, it becomes a bit hard. But I hope you bear with us. We'll try to record as much as we can and try to fix time. I used to listen to preaching. She had the, you can go to her YouTube channel. She has that preaching of story to marriage, journey to marriage, something like that. And she used to say, like, people prepare for the wedding, but they don't actually prepare for the marriage. So it really I had to listen to her preaching and all of that. Trust me, I never wanted a big wedding. That's the truth. If you ask my sisters, like, they know I never wanted a big wedding. But even that preaching really pushed me to make a decision to be like, I would prefer a small wedding because of these reasons. Sometimes us in Kampala, or how our traditions are in Uganda or in Africa, it doesn't really require us to do all of those things, because initially, if we could go back, initially it was always just a visit to the parents to get to know each other, and for your man to know the family you come from. So once they know, then the bride price and that is done. But as more time went on, people became to modernize it, then doing the introduction, then bringing all this big stuff and all of that. I've seen people who do those big weddings and even things don't work out. I've seen people who do those big weddings and then afterwards they are paying debts. Their marriage is suffering because of the debts they had. They are married, they are not happy. I know a couple, I wouldn't say which over which, but I know a couple who were really, really, really happy before the marriage. And they did this big wedding. Then afterwards, they had dates. And even the happiness they had before they actually made it official, it all went away, and they were unhappy because of this, because they couldn't even afford to pay the rent because of what was going on. So, before you plan a wedding, or before you decide what type of wedding you want to do, sit with your husband. If your man is frank with you, leave alone these boys that you're dating and all, they be like, oh, we can afford this, we have this, when in real sense they really have nothing, or they can't even afford those things. So before you get married, make sure you sit with your husband to be, look into your finances. You as a couple, what can you afford? Yes, I know people would do, in Uganda we do these meetings of coming together and then they contribute and all of that. But after the contribution, when you go into marriage, no one will contribute a thing. Even though like you're dying of hunger, no one is going to contribute a thing. And the funny thing I've realized after getting married, Even your friends can't help you out with money, because I remember, like, before you got married, I would be like, hey, I have an issue, can you help me with the money? I'll pay you when I get my salary. And they'll be really, really okay to borrow me the money or to give me the money. Now, if I ask someone money, they'll be like, where is your husband? Ask your husband. So, yeah, people will be willing to come together and get this money for you. But what happens after the wedding? After the wedding, no one is actually willing to help you with a thing. So yes, people will come together because it's a function. That's what we do in Uganda. They will gather, make those meetings, get you money to do the function. But then after the wedding, what happens for you and your husband? Now you go home, what's next? So our advice, like, before you do a wedding or any functions, or even to try to show off to your friends or compete with your friends. Oh, my friend did this, let me do this. Or my friend had this artist, Melbourne, she had one, then for me, let me bring two. Or my friends had this company for make cheese, smell, do better. Look at your husband. Look into your finances. What can you do, you as a couple? Then you can decide. In that preaching, that pastor says, like, right now, even the men are really scared to settle down or to even talk about marriage because of the expectations we have for the functions. A man would love you, but even here you're talking about how you want your functions to be, how big all of these things you want to be. And yet you're a young couple, you're both young, you're trying to figure out life together and to build something. But there is no way you're going to build something when you put all that pressure and all these big things on this young man who's trying to build a life with you. Let's all be real. Like, be realistic. You're both young. Let me first now, you're both young. You're trying to get something together. Be understanding my man is doing his best. Let me just fix what we can do. Because I remember even us going to pay our bride price, it's not like my man couldn't afford a big function. He actually could. He could, but I know, what do I really wanted? Growing up with not my biological parents, where we paid, is my uncle, is a brother to my father. Not growing up with both my biological parents, I think it also had a push on me not to want the big functions, because I'm like, who am I even trying to impress? But besides that, I really never wanted, because I'm like, if we can do a function with our savings, like the whole savings we have, because doing those big functions in Uganda, it could even cost you about 100 millions or even 50 million for just one function. Even when you add on a big wedding, that's like 100 millions and plus. So if we could spend all our savings of 100 million or 50 million at a wedding, then after the wedding, what happens? I would rather stay with my savings. I would rather stay with my savings and do a small function. Let me break down how much our wedding costed. My husband, I told my husband, because they're like, oh, a suit and making a suit. I'm like, you just come with a suit you have in your closet. If you want to buy, well and good. But if there is a suit in your closet, just carry that. You don't have to buy any suit. So he came with his suit ready. And we just had to fix it a bit because it was a bit bigger coming to his hands and all of that. So fixing it, I think it was around 150,000. My wedding dress was 600,000. Our cake at the wedding was 130,000. It was really a small wedding, a small cake, I mean. Then I invited 20, actually it was 17 people plus the 3 photographers that made it 20. And each plate costed 750,000. It was a 3-course meal, a starter, a main course, and then the dessert. And it was at Skies, Naguru, Skies Hotel, Naguru. So when you add 70,000 and 700. 70,000 and 50. 750,000 times 20. That money also included a drink, so you can times 3. That's the money. So the whole wedding literally costed us about 3 to 4 millions. 3 to 4 millions. I won't even lie to you. And I made, because I remember my dad was like, oh, I have your aunties, I would love to come. I told my dad, whoever you're trying to add on, you're going to pay for them. This is our budget, and this is what we are going to go with. Whoever feels like they want to bring a friend or bring another relative I didn't invite, they are going to pay for themselves. Because I remember one of my sister did an introduction, and the introduction was really, really colorful and beautiful and all of that. And then I asked her, do you know these people? And like, I don't know who the hell are these people. And that, like, we do functions in Uganda and you don't know who the hell is even at your function. Like, people come like from villages, they will see you when you're like really young because they know that they know your dad and they feel like they're entitled to come to your function. Hell no. And like the function is over 300, 400 people, and you know only 20 to 40 people in that function. Other people, you don't know them. You don't know where they're coming from. You have no idea who they are. So I'm like, I'm going to do a small function. Yes, I didn't invite a lot of people, even the ones I know, and even some of my family members. I'm going to do a small function on what I feel comfortable with, that I don't have to ask for money from anyone, and like the most important people are there. Because I mean, that I think you can go on the YouTube and watch her preaching. She's like, why rent a car of 1 million shillings just to drive you from church to reception, just to drive you for 10 minutes? What's the idea? Like, what the hell? Anyway, if you want to do it, well and good, but make sure you prepare for the marriage, not the wedding. Because we focus more on that day for the function, and you forget what is going to happen afterwards, after the wedding, after everyone eats the food, after everyone enjoys your day and they go home. So then what happens for you when you go back with your husband? What are you going to eat afterwards? What if you're still renting, how are you going to pay the rent afterwards? Because some people even lose jobs. You can have all this in your head. Once you have all of this in your head, like, hey, even though we can have money, what if the function it's done and everyone, like, some of us lose the job, or even the one who was earning more, the jobs come something and you can't earn that money, what happens? No one is going to borrow you money after giving you the money from the wedding. But ask your husband, what is your husband doing? You should talk to your husband. Everyone is be like husband, 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 and they forget like this is also a human being. Like money also, it's hard sometimes to get money even for them. Sometimes money, he can't find it because he's also human like another person. But everyone, if they focus on your husband, your husband, your husband, hey, this is also someone's child. Nice sentence, nice sentence, but no one will understand that. So before you make all this show off, and then the big function, and then this, and then change 1,000 times, and then rent all of these cars, and then invite 1,000 people in the wedding, think of the marriage. Think of the life after. Think what your husband can do. Don't put pressure on these people's sons. Like, if that man loves, because that woman, the lady's preaching it, she's like, if that man loves you, he fears God, he's hardworking. Leave alone these people just sit around. Like, if you have a man that really, really does his best, you see him really, really trying. He loves God. A person who loves God would do the right thing. Because I remember when I was praying for a husband, I was like, God, I need someone who can pray with me. And I think the first night Brandon came, I told him, before he went to bed, I told him, let's kneel down and pray. And that man knelt down, held my hand, and we prayed together before we went to bed. That really touched my soul. I'm like, this is it. If this man can pray with me, he's hardworking. He tries. You see him really working and doing his best. And like, I'm done. Other things you can't work together. None of us is lame. Even people with disabilities, you see them working and doing their best. What about us who God provided us with both hands and legs and nothing is wrong with us? And like, we will work. We will definitely work. So before you put pressure on a man trying to get to you, a man trying to marry you and put all these expectations and trying to convince him do all these things, you know he can't afford, or you know very well he doesn't have that kind of money. Before you push him away with all of that, leave the function alone and think of the life after the functions, because that's what really matters. You have children after this big wedding and you can't even provide for them. And those same people who push you to do the big wedding, they will be the ones laughing at you. How you did all these functions and you can't even afford it. Now you're crying to them how you don't have food. So think before you pressure people to do all this. Before you put pressure this loving man who's trying to show you he wants to make it official, but he can't afford the big stuff you want. My pastor always says, as long as your marriage is registered in the hands of God, and when it's registered in the hands of God, for it to be officially registered in the hands of God is when your man visits your parents and your parents agree. So as long as your parents agree, and that is paying the bride price, other things don't matter. Your friends will laugh at you if you tell them you don't have what to eat and you did this whole big function. So as long as you go to your parents, pay the bride price. That's what my pastor always says. As long as you make it official and it's registered in the God's hands, and God's hands, it means the parents agreeing for you to get married. So as long as it's parents agree, you pay the bride price. And even the bride price, when you go there to do the bride price, you can't tell your parents, like, we have a say. You know your husband is parent, your father doesn't know, your uncle don't know how the earnings of your husband to be. So if they tell you, we want 10 cows, we want 30 million, we want a car as your bride price, when you well know your husband to be can't afford 10 cows, your husband can't afford a car to give to your parents as a bride price, why still insist on doing it? You can easily tell your parents, hey, we can't afford that. Well, this is what we can afford. And it's also okay. Parents will understand. Because I remember my mom now, she's like, as long as you're happy. For sure, the things we do for the functions, it's even not about the parents. Some parents don't really mind. My mom is, as long as you're happy and I get to meet the man and where you're going to be and the family is coming from, I'm total okay. I want nothing. That's why sometimes you go in marriages and they abuse you because they paid you off. Hey, I paid you, I gave you father this, I gave you father, and they feel like they have a right because they paid. Hell no. Anyway, let's not get into that. But from my experience and what I've seen from my friends and my experience as someone who did a small wedding, I was so peaceful. Everything went on like I had no pressure. I had no pressure. I think the table thing I did on my function, the table decoration I did, it was actually my sister. She came and did it was 300. and then photography was 700, and that is it, really. And the function was, we ate good food, we had fun. I really took a speaker and we were dancing afterwards with my siblings. So those who can afford a big function with no pressure and no pressuring your man, congratulations, well and good, enjoy the function. But those who can't afford, and you know very well you can't just put all your savings in a wedding, please don't depress the streets. The streets will laugh when you're suffering after the wedding. Otherwise, peace and love. We love you. From me and my husband,